Hey everybody, something is wrong with my Facebook. So I'm trying to take care of that right. Well, it's not Facebook, it's Google. For some reason, Google acting funny. So I gotta find out what the heck is up with Google. Let me see. Try another way. Your phone. Why are you trying to... I put my code in. I mean, this thing is like... What the heck is wrong with this thing? I'm showing here. Whoa. What are you trying to do? I done verified this is me. That's why I hate. That's why I'm like, sometimes it's like, okay, what are you trying to do? Because I'm right here. And I see I'm live. Edit video. Because I can edit it. Proceed. See, I don't like this at all. Next. Which means a verification was sent to my phone. And I have an Android phone. Usually locks up. Try another way. Cancel. There we go. Bam. I don't like this because it was supposed to use my whatchamacall. It's supposed to use my code to sign in. We've updated the inappropriate language ad guidelines we announced on November 30th. Dismiss. I don't care about that. Come back here. And hello everybody, it's me. I apologize about the hang-ups and twist-ups and everything. We just had hello. Of course, let me go on and get started. Of course, Mind of Jamal Live. How are you guys doing this evening? Mind of Jamal Black Southerner. How are you doing? Black Tea Patriots. How are you guys doing this evening? Well, how are y'all doing, Black Tea Patriots? Let me go on and give y'all a couple shots out. There's so much to talk about tonight because it's going to be a rock and roll show tonight. Give me my money. That's what so many people are saying to the banks. Give me my money. Because they had a big rush for people trying to get money out of banks and things. You also had Joe Biden bailing out banks. You had Joe Biden bailing out banks. That's not how it's supposed to be. That's not how it's supposed to be. The people who are supposed to get bailed out are those people who had under 250,000, and I think investors. What Joe Biden has done was taking the banking industry. Democrats have taken over the banking industry. They have attempted to redo and reshape banks, and with this ESG stuff they have been doing, that's not good. ESG is nothing more than liberals' way of discrimination when it comes to banks. If you are on Mind of Jamal, please, Mind of Jamal, please hit like. Frozen, you should be good, not no more. All right, that's how everybody's straight there. Everybody's straight there. Dashboard is working. There is no freeze ups. Task manager, lower it down. All right. Want to say hey Lisa Pretty, Bernie Miranda, Elena Gertson, Jungle Queen, Tammy 621. How are y'all over there on Mind of Jamal Live? Want to say hello to Hurley McAdams. Of course. I believe Burlington, Queen Peckerwood, Billy Hickney, Drew Kissick, Chris Ramsey. Thought Drew Kissick was one of my moderators. Yeah, I'm about to say she was one of my moderators. And Trumpy Bear. I ain't seen Trumpy Bear in a while. And Miss Ruth Johnson, Michelle Bueller, Jeff Hayes. What's up, Jeff? Jean, Valerie Long. Earbuds messed up. Okay, but I did pray for you, Miss Valerie. Billy Hinkle, MAGA General, of course. Kimberly Ashcroft, Fireman. You know what? Yeah, Hurley McAdams. I thought I made Hurley McAdams one. Pencil Sticks, Johnny Reb 1, Buck Life 243, Hammers 1234, Saved by Rock and Roll. Okay, that's some new people. Iowa Hawkeyes, of course, Mr. Pete Larson. But everybody, we end up paying money to these banks that fell out, Signature and SVB, Silicon Valley Bank, because of liberalism. These banks failed because they were so worried about diversity. There's no other way to put it. One bank gave Black Lives Matter $75 million. These young generational Gen Zs, whatever you call them, have went to college and joined the workforce to change the company to their liking instead of working for the companies. This is what college have taught these young people, to join these businesses, to change them and to corrupt them from within. And that's why they're dying. We should not have given those banks any money. No. We should not have given them any money for the simple fact that those banks took risk and failed. Now, yes, they did buy government bonds, government treasury notes. And with inflation, they lost money. Blame it on Joe Biden. See, one of the people who was in charge of one of these banks is former Congressman Barney Franks. Original openly gay man in Congress. Barney Franks and Bill Clinton was the people who decided that the American dream, house, picket fence, and car was a right instead of a privilege. Let's start where this really started from. Back in the 1990s, Bill Clinton and the Black Caucus, Congressional Black Caucus, start saying everybody was entitled to a house and a car. Everybody was entitled to a house. Well, you had a lot of companies that was giving out loans based off color. People who could not afford home loans, you're making $10 an hour. Your wife making $10 an hour. That's $20 an hour together. Well, you had people that was getting $100,000 homes, getting new homes and stuff like that, and they couldn't afford them. And so what they was doing was getting these loans refinance, and then they was coming with low payment loans, and it all blew up in our face. The American taxpayers had to bail these banks out. Well, they came up with this rule called Dodd-Frank, which was named after Congressman Barney Franks. And it's supposed to stop a lot of these things from going on. Now, in 2018, many Democrat congressmen, especially Barney Franks, was like, hey, this is hurting banks. We can't give people loans if we're charging them for paperwork and charging them. So they relaxed some of the restrictions. Everything was going good, no problems. Now that Joe Biden is president, the bottom fell out. But they would have noticed this stuff if banks would have been paying attention to what matters: money. If the banks would have been paying attention to what absolutely matters, which is money, this wouldn't have happened. Remember, y'all, at the end of the day, at the end of the night, when you hear you got mail, when you hear you got mail, when you hear that, that means I'm going to read your email. So go to themindofjamal.com, go to contact and send me an email. Okay, go to themindofjamal.com and go to contact and send me an email. Let me see. I got a couple messages already waiting for me, but I'll read them later. For Mr. Larson and Miss Yvette Romick. I promise you I'll read them later. But these people were more worried about diversity and ESG. What ESG is, it's a score to make sure you're following climate change and other diversity type programs. ESG gives your company and your certain scores, and actually you too, when it comes to climate change and all this stuff that is still a highly debated topic in America. So we got to talk about that tonight. We also got to talk about the high school that got banned out of playing sports because they refused to allow their girls the other week to play against a biological boy, to play against a boy dressed up as a girl. A Vermont Christian Academy girls basketball team would not play this other basketball team that has a boy on it dressed as a girl. So we got to talk about that tonight. We got to talk about things are heating up in Ukraine. America is saying Russia shot down a U.S. warplane. Why would they call that a U.S. warplane if not to get us in some type of conflict with Russia? They did not shoot down a U.S. warplane. A U.S. drone and a Russian jet bumped into each other. But my point, one of the points I'm going to make, of course, is why do America expect, and I love the United States of America, I love my country but hate the government. Why do those in the government believe they can send missiles to Ukraine, money to Ukraine, kill Russian soldiers, and Russia's not going to do anything back? I'm sorry, America, if you feel you are the moral superiority in this one, but others don't feel that. We also got to talk about I think it's called Prick or something like that. I'll play the video. People are dumping the US dollar. We have overplayed our hand. The US dollar was never supposed to be so we could sanction people and make them broke. The US dollar gave us power because everybody was buying our dollar. Everybody was trading in the US dollar. So you know what? People will come, take their gold, drop it off in the world banks in America and our national banks and trading in U.S. currency. Well, now certain countries are like, screw that. We're tired of America telling us what we're going to do in our country. And some of these countries are African nations. Some of these are African nations, which America has decided to sanction because they're not LGBTQI friendly. So we got to talk about that as well tonight. So we got a packed show tonight, a lot to talk about. Now, my background, you ever play, you'll recognize it. That's my background for tonight. that's the background, of course. And so let's get started, shall we, with this debacle we like to call wokeness destroyed the banks. Because they was worried about things that had nothing to do with banking. I think I had it. I know I just had it. Did I just have it? Yeah, right here. Here we go.
Politicians forced the entire population indoors at gunpoint, so millions of people had no choice but to live out their lives in the lonely hell of the internet. That turned out to be a disaster for America, as rising suicide rates now attest, but for Silicon Valley it made for an epic payday. And that epic payday was soon reflected epically on the balance sheets of its biggest local lenders, which was called Silicon Valley Bank. In 2018, SVB had about $49 billion on deposit. 3 years later, that same bank had amassed more than $189 billion. That is a gargantuan increase in deposits over a very short period of time. It was certainly dramatic enough to have raised a very serious question, and an obvious one. What was Silicon Valley Bank going to do with all that money? Even in the San Francisco Bay Area, it would be hard to find qualified borrowers for $189 billion. You could not responsibly loan all of that money, even if you wanted to. So what would you do with it? Now, that's the question you would have asked if you were paying attention, both from inside SVB or from the federal regulatory agencies in Washington. But it turns out nobody was paying attention. Nobody thought to ask that or many other questions. Nobody thought to stress test Silicon Valley Bank in the middle of a boom. And of course, that turned out to be a grave mistake. But the remaining question is, what were they doing at SVB and at the other banks that have either failed or come close to failing over the last week? Well, they were doing what you would do if you were a mediocre but highly credentialed, irresponsible person with a narcissism complex who talked a lot about your ultra marathons and your commitment to climate change. If the central bank handed you trillions of dollars free with no strings attached, you would party like it was 1999. Or to update the reference, you would virtue signal like it was 2023. You would spend hundreds of millions of dollars bragging about what a good person you are. And that, of course, is exactly what they did. Consider Signature Bank. Now, Signature Bank was shut down by federal regulators this weekend on Sunday because it posed an imminent threat to the entire financial system. Its demise marked the third largest bank collapse in American history. Why did Signature Bank fail? We could give you the technical math-based answer, but here's the real reason. Signature Bank failed because it was corrupt. That's a strong charge. How do we know that? Well, simple. Its directors gave Barney Frank a board seat. That's it. Frank is the same person who was a member of Congress from Massachusetts, wrote the banking regulations imposed on Signature Bank and all the other banks by Washington after the '08 collapse. Barney Frank has never had a real job. He has spent his entire life in politics. He's elderly now, but he has no relevant experience or expertise. So the only reason that Signature Bank hired him is because he once regulated Signature Bank. Now, if we were looking at a foreign country, we'd describe that instantly as what? A payoff. The people who actually ran Signature Bank, meanwhile, the so-called bankers, did not seem to spend a lot of time banking. And of course, they didn't need to bank, really, because the Fed was guaranteeing them a never-ending torrent of cash in the form of free money. So what did they do? Well, here is Scott Shea, the chairman of Signature Bank, welcoming his employees to a meeting of the bank's critical Pride Council. This video is from last December, just months before Signature Bank slipped beneath the waves. And the Pride Council in question, as you will see in a moment, featured a self-described genderqueer transmasculine person called Finn Brigham, who arrived to teach employees about pronoun use. Watch.
I'm Scott Shea, chairman of Signature Bank, and it is a pleasure for me to welcome you to this multimedia, multicasted, multispatial meeting of the Pride Council. And I'm just thrilled that there are about 40 people in the room. I understand there are something like 190 people at watch parties. So hi to you all at the watch parties.
You know, the most common pronouns that folks are familiar with are she and he. Becoming much more common, and I don't know if there's anyone in the Signature Bank world, but probably you have clients that use they, them as pronouns. They're gender-neutral pronouns on purpose. We talked about folks that are non-binary, that intentionally don't identify as male or female. So some of those folks use they, them as their pronouns. Z is another gender-neutral pronoun, and the other part of that would be here, spelled H-I-R.
Scott,
why in the world are we bailing out this bank? See, this is what happens when you hire people who have not the company's interest at heart. I'm sorry, if you want to be worried about gender non-conforming crap, all that, that's you. You worry about that. But people have a right to not want that. People have a right to say, I don't want that. And that's how it used to be. Some people may get upset when I'm about to say, it may be a little offensive, but the gay community has risen quickly, more quickly than the black community ever wished they could. Acceptance for the gay community and what they want has totally dwarfed the black community. It just overtook it. Back in the 1970s and 80s, when black folk was trying to work for banks and start working in banks, nobody was doing that for us. Nobody was saying, let's come to the meeting and let's discuss black and folk and discuss black issues. But they do it for the GBTLQ community. And these so-called black leaders are silent. I'll be honest. Liberals have found a way to put the black community in the back of the bus, and we're going there not even with a Pepsi Cola and a pack of peanuts. This diversity crap sucks. Diversity sucks. People need to stop focusing on diversity and focus on production. You want to stop racism? Take a company that needs money and needs production. If somebody isn't working hard, you fire them. If they're working hard, you keep them. Whether they're black, white, Asian, Latino. That's how you end racism. Money. This is just downright ridiculous. This is just downright ridiculous. And I'm going to tell you something. This is only getting worse. Because Republicans, especially the establishment, especially the ones who like going to the cocktail parties, sitting with their friends, getting their kids into the expensive college, they're not against this type of crap. And oh yeah, this only gets worse.
Jay is just thrilled to introduce the genderqueer transmasculine pronoun expert and to host watch parties so everyone else can watch him explain pronouns. What do they pay that guy? What did they pay that guy? How much will they have to pay you to swallow your dignity? To completely eliminate the possibility that your children would ever respect you in order to put on a performance that embarrassing? Probably a lot. We don't know what he was paid. Clearly a lot. Clearly the bank got a lot of money because trans pronoun experts are not cheap at all. But Signature did have a lot of cash, of course, because the Federal Reserve was printing it. And they got the first pass. This is what low interest rates for 13 years means. So again, this was going on for years. Here, for example, is Signature Bank's music video. Did you know banks made music videos? Of course they did. They didn't know what else to do with the money. This one is from 2011.
Now you come to Signature. Show your client.
Sorry, it was a dance party at Signature Bank. Bank. Like there was banking going on. No, it was a dance party at Signature Bank with pronouns. And that's not the only video from Signature Bank like that. You can go online and find many others, including their Broadway-inspired sketches. You could spend all day watching these videos we just did and are better off for it. But it's not just Signature. The guy who ran Signature was really craven and repulsive, but he's not alone. No one at any of these banks seemed to spend a lot of time banking, which the rest of us believed was the core business of a bank, but no. In fact, at Silicon Valley Bank, only a single member of the board had any experience at investment banking. The rest were silly rich ladies. The Daily Mail reports that every other member of the board was an Obama or Clinton mega donor. One silly rich lady was such a sensitive soul, of course she was, that she had to go to a Shinto shrine to pray when Donald Trump won in 2016. We looked up her picture. She doesn't seem like a native born Shinto, but whatever. There was a lot of fashionable rich girl politics underway at Silicon Valley Bank, but banking, not so much. SVB had no head of risk management for 9 months in the year before it collapsed. Ooh, guess someone should have been paying attention, but no. They're visiting Shinto shrines and having dance parties with the pronouns. Meanwhile, Silicon Valley Bank UK, that would be the UK arm of Silicon Valley Bank in case the name didn't give it away, did have a head of risk management. Unfortunately, the head was called Jay Ersapa, who didn't seem to know a lot about managing risks or care. She talked mostly about herself, because it's so fascinating to talk about yourself a lot. Me, enough about you or risk management. Let's talk about me. And she did. At one point, she described herself as a, quote, queer person of color from working class background. Oh, yes. Narcissism is so much more fun than banking. So needless to say, the risk manager was working hard on LGBTQIA++ rights. How did that end? How does it work if you run a bank like this with people who just talk about themselves and their identities as if those are interesting topics? Well, this week, Silicon Valley's UK bank's UK branch sold for the fully publicly disclosed sum of $1. $1 for the bank. But as you would imagine, in a bank where nobody cared about risk management, the collapse was pretty entertaining for the rest of us. Of course, there's a tragedy at the core that imperils the entire Western economy. But the good news is we have videos like this. This is a video that SVB put out days before it went under.
I think there's a big disparity between the investments in black-led companies than other companies.
We want to help close the Latino wealth gap.
Okay, I think I've asked this before. What's up, Jose Marquez? What's going on, my man? I think I've asked this before. If a Latino dude speak English perfectly, because I'm going to be honest with you, it's a lot of Latinos that speak English better than some people I know. I mean, like, really good. And don't put a like, you know what I'm saying? Don't talk like that. They have the best educated conversations you can have. But why when they go to certain words, they kind of throw that little spice, Latin spice up there? I'm from Puerto Rico. My name is Jose Nuenanas. Now, he can be talking like, yes, I'm going to the store, I'm about to buy a drink, and I'm about to get a tamale. Alright, hold up. Where the accent come from, bruh? You was just talking normal a few seconds ago. Like, really, you was just talking normal a few seconds ago, and now all of a sudden, I'm gonna go to get me a tamale and guacamole and get me some salsa. Bruh, you was just talking normal. You were born in eastern North Carolina. You was born in Bertie County. You are an American citizen. Where you get the Latin, the spice on the word from? Come on now. But I see it so much. It's funny. Like, we going to McDonald's. Okay, yeah. We going to McDonald's. All right. What do you want? Oh, give me a double cheeseburger, large fry, and a Coke light ice. Yeah. Okay. Man, where's that place we going to? I think it's by the restaurant. Oh, you're talking about El Coloque? What? But this diversity stuff is not good. You cannot spend your time focusing on diversity, because when you spend all your time focusing on diversity, you create racism. We are literally creating racism. This is not the 1960s, 50s, 40s, or whatever. When you go into a bank, your color should not give you a better chance of getting a loan. Because if there's a white guy who deserves the loan, never been racist, don't know anything about it, and he doesn't get the loan, but you get it, and he knows why, don't you think you're creating animosity? And that's not fair. That's not right. Aren't we tired of this pronoun argument? Because I'll be honest, for those of us who oppose gay marriage and we told you so, we told you so. For those of us who oppose gay marriage and was like, you do not want to do gay marriage, it's more to it, they want more to it. And people's like, no, they just want a right to love. You see, we was right. But this is just furthering it. It's never enough. This is a bank. They're supposed to be about money. If you have the credit, you're supposed to get the loan. If you have the assets, you're supposed to get the loan. If you don't, you don't get it. And it seems like people were getting loans that did not supposed to have them. And this is what happened.
More entitled people talking about themselves. Let's talk about me and my identity. It's so interesting. Banking is boring. The Fed's got that covered. Is this starting to scare you a little bit? This is what banks are actually like? And we don't want to alarm anybody or get censored by Senator Mark Kelly of Arizona, who is now on the record saying he does not want you complaining about banks. But we should tell you it's not just Signature SVB officials who talk like that. JP Morgan, that's the biggest bank in the world, we think, as of tonight, one of the few banks that consumers still have some confidence in, put out a whole video about how they give out money, not on the basis of economics or math, but on the basis of irrelevant characteristics like your appearance. They're judging the book by its cover. Watch.
The events of summer 2020 highlighted long-standing inequalities, particularly among the Black, Hispanic, and Latino communities, that has had a significant impact on our country. At JP Morgan Chase, a key goal is to help break down systemic barriers that have created profound disparities. That's why we committed $30 billion towards racial equity to provide resources and opportunity for our Black, Hispanic, and Latino communities.
Latino. You know, this bank is named after J.P. Morgan. J.P. Morgan was one of the original people that bought you Westinghouse. J.P. Morgan bought you Westinghouse. The Westinghouse electric generators and stuff like that. J.P. Morgan backed Tesla. J.P. Morgan would not have been backing this crap. J.P. Morgan was about how can I make more money. I do believe he was richer than John D. Rockefeller. I do believe he had more money than Rockefeller. I do believe he had more money than Rockefeller. Michelle Farrell Lineberg, I don't think it's no different. Some people say Hispanic, some people say Latino. I guess if you say Latino, you Central American, I don't know. I think they all the same. It's the same thing with black folk. Some of us call ourselves black, like me. Some call themselves African American. Some call themselves people of color. I'm sorry, when I hear somebody say people of color, I just want to get me a Klan robe and say scream out color folk. I'm sorry. Y'all can get mad at me. Every time I hear somebody say people of color, I just want to go get me a Klan robe and say, all right, you colored folk, get off my lawn. I just want to do it. I just want to do it. I just want to go out there dressed as a Klan robe and a double-barrel shotgun. All right, you bunch of colors, get off my lawn. I'm saying, colors use the bathroom over there. Get you some colored bathrooms. You know, somebody ought to go into the museum, and when you see colored only water fountain or colored only theater, they ought to write people of color. Cross out the ED and just put people of color. People of / off the ED for color. But this is not what a bank is supposed to be about. A bank is supposed to be about making money. That's how you end racism. You see green. If you see green, you don't see black, you don't see white, you see money. Now, I know for those who are Christian, Jamal, you say you're a Christian. Don't the Bible say money is the root of all evil? I know. That's what the Bible says. The Bible is 100% right. The Bible is right. Everybody else is wrong. That is true. But I am saying, how about we hire people who are about money? Because if I own a business and somebody come in here, what's up, Gail, Miss Gail Crawford? If I own a business and somebody's here talking to me about diversity and stuff like that, I'm going to look at you like you stupid. These people are destroying our country and crashing our banks.
We've invested more than $100 million in minority-owned banks across the country and are building a more equitable and representative workforce. We're committed to racial equity.
Wait a second! Am I getting a moral lecture from a bank? From a bank? Really? A bank is telling America how to live? Describing America's sins? You're a bank! Where's the left, by the way? 90 years ago, in the 1930s, the last Great Depression, nobody would have sat still from a moral lecture delivered by a bank. But they're very common now. Why? Well, a little history. After 2008, a movement emerged called Occupy Wall Street. At the time, it was at the cutting edge of left-wing social activism. And it did seem kind of organic. Most of these things are completely fake, like BLM, obviously orchestrated. But Occupy Wall Street seemed kind of real. It seemed like angry people. And some people from Occupy Wall Street turned their attention to the head of JP Morgan, who of course is Jamie Dimon. They went to his office, they held signs outside for 24 hours a day, and they hassled other bank presidents too. And before long, a funny thing happened. Everybody in the media decided that Occupy Wall Street was boring Anything about economics was boring, because who cares about carried interest? What's that? What we really want to talk about, they told you, is racial oppression and your role in it. And so we got a lot of that, only for like 12 years now. An endless parade of lies about this or that, your complicity in systemic racism, police shootings. They're everywhere. Everyone's getting killed by the cops. Hands up, don't shoot. Remember that? So we're all still talking about that nonsense, ripping the country apart along racial lines. But guess what we're not talking about? Oh, banks. And guess who loves that? Banks. They deeply appreciate that. And maybe that's why, as BLM rioters torched major cities, Democrats who took big money from big banks knelt in reverence to BLM.
Here to honor George Floyd. In a moment, we will have a moment of silence, actually 8 minutes and 46 seconds of silence in honor of George Floyd and so many others who lost their lives or were abused by police brutality. For those who wish to, we will now kneel for our moment of silence.
Oh, so great. What does everybody in that frame have in common? Well, they'll have kente cloth robes on. A lot of them are wearing masks. No, but they're all bank shills. That's what it is. They're all bank shills. They're shills for finance. Of course, every single one of them, and particularly the utterly soulless Nancy Pelosi. She'll say anything on behalf of the banks. And the banks love this, of course. They wanted to make sure it continued. And that's why, according to amazing new analysis from the Claremont Institute, Silicon Valley Bank, brace yourself, spent more than $73 million on donations to BLM and related organizations. Wow!
73 million dollars to Black Lives Matter donations. And what did she do with that money? What did she do with that money? What did she do with it? She spent the money on houses. You remember her, the lady that was head of Black Lives Matter. Now, Joe Biden should not have bailed these banks out. What Joe Biden did was he came in and he bailed these banks out that prescribed to his woke liberal Democrat ideology. The banks were given money from the American taxpayer because Joe Biden doesn't have any money. Yes, Democrats don't have any money. Republicans don't have any money. When they're talking about giving money to anybody, that's government money. Government money is U.S. taxpayers' money. That's the money that we work for. When you look at the end of the week at your check and you see your taxes have been taken out, that's your money. That's your money. That money that your mother worked for and your dad worked for, those times y'all who was my age, I'm 48 years old, be 48 this May. For those of you who are my age and you remember getting some water late at night because you was tired and you was thirsty and you saw your dad crashed out sleep at the table, haven't even finished eating his food, just sat there tired and sleep. That's his money. Oh, my bad. They probably already done spent it. Knowing the U.S. government, they probably already done spent it. Because this is like 1983, 85, when I seen my dad sleep at the table. Waking up in the middle of the night, he's knocked out sleep. Because he's tired. And then got to turn around and get back up. For all of you who work, like for myself, When I get off 9 o'clock at night and I'm tired, my money goes to these banks. And we're only supposed to be protecting those people who put money inside the bank. Joe Biden did a move that Republicans should sue him over. But those banks give Republicans money too. See, one thing about liberals, a lot of them are smart. They're not gonna give money to the Ted Cruz, the Mike Lees, the Kennedys. They're gonna give money to Romney, Lindsey Graham. They're gonna give money to senators who got enough pull to stop a bill. They're gonna donate to senators and congressmen enough to get the no vote. You don't have to donate to everybody. You just know who to specifically donate to.
And this is not personal funds. Apparently these are bank funds. Might be kind of nice to have that money now, but it's hard to argue, even in retrospect, now that SVB has failed, that was a bad investment. Because even now, as banks are collapsing, no one in media is anxious to criticize banks, almost no matter what they do. It doesn't matter what they do. Even if they were to, just pulling this out of thin air, openly profiteer from a war in Eastern Europe that's killing hundreds of thousands of people. Oh, it turns out they are. And we know that because Zelensky, the president of Ukraine, and a very close friend of banks and BlackRock, is bragging about it. Watch.
It is obvious that American business can become the locomotive that will once again push forward global economic growth. We have already managed to attract attention and have cooperation with such giants of the international financial and investment world as BlackRock, JP Morgan, and Goldman Sachs.
So we're getting moral lectures from the banks, and we're getting a lecture on capitalism from some Ukrainian oligarch in a sweatshirt. Okay now. Stephanie Pomboy, founder of Macro Maven. She joins us to kind of untangle the insanity here. I'm not, Stephanie, I have to say, you're one of the very few people who called this early and said there are going to be tragic and distorting effects of flooding the American economy with fake money from the Federal Reserve. And I think you're right.
Yeah, well, it was hardly a radical conclusion to draw when you slather on layers and layers of debt on an economy and encourage people to take reckless risk, and then you ratchet up interest rates at the fastest rate in history. I mean, God knows, the surprise is that it took this long for the bodies to float to the surface. And honestly, Tucker, this banking thing is particularly remarkable because of the level of impunity that the banks evidenced. And you've talked about, this whole diversity, equity, inclusion, and the woke agenda, and this idea that, banking doesn't need to be boring. You used to want to get away from the banker at the cocktail party. Now he's, throwing confetti, and he's got a lampshade on his head, and he's the life of the party. But the reality is these problems at Silicon Valley Bank and Signature, their pursuit of these woke agendas may make them, let's hope, exceptional. I mean, hopefully these videos aren't pervasive to the entire banking sector, although they may very well be. But ultimately, the entire banking sector did the same thing, and that is that they watched their deposit base wither over the last 12 months while the Fed was raising interest rates, because people like you and me looked at it and said, why am I putting my money in the bank and getting zero when I can buy a treasury bill and get 3, 4, 5% as the Fed kept raising rates? So their deposit base was shrinking. At the same time, all those assets that they held that you talked about last night, the treasuries and whatnot, were declining in value. And they sat there and they did nothing about it, Tucker. And they didn't just do that for 1 month or 2 months, which might be excusable, but 6, 9 months go by and the problems are getting worse and worse, and they did nothing. Why did they do nothing? Because they knew all along when this day came, the bailout would be there for them. So the impunity of this banking system is beyond, but they've been taught there are no consequences for mismanagement and this ridiculous, all these ridiculous woke priorities, which have, you should actually, when someone comes in and presents a business idea and wants a loan, you should be looking at whether it's a viable business model, not whether it's, some sweaty teenager in a hoodie with some harebrained scheme that you can throw money at without consequence. But this is where we are. And sadly, I think we're just at the beginning of this, because the companies that SVB and these other banks lent money to are all going to go belly up, just like the clients of SVB started to do.
Hopefully they'll spare us the moral lectures. They already pay half the tax rate we do in a lot of cases. It's a little much, I would say. Stephanie Pomboy, I appreciate you coming on tonight. Thank you so much.
They sat there and watched this happen. And something tells me they expected the U.S. government to bail them out. This is why we need Donald Trump as president. Oh yes, Miss Gail, he showed something from the January 6th. He shows something from January 6th tonight. Oh yes, he's still doing the J6. He is still doing J6. He is still doing J6 stuff. He did something tonight. He did something tonight on it. So yes, he is doing something on J6. Like I said, remember y'all, please go to themindofjamal.com. themindofjamal.com. Send me a letter. Miss Yvette Romick, your message didn't come through. Only thing it says message, nothing. It just says your device and you contacted me. So Miss Yvette, if you wanted to tell me something, oh, I got a message from Miss Jessica Sutton. Okay. And you know what, Miss Jessica, your message is what I'm going to next. Christians are under attack. I'm not talking about these fake rollover, do nothing about nothing, carnal Christians. I'm not talking about them. I'm talking about Christians that make a stand. You had a school in Vermont that's a Christian academy, Mid-Vermont Christian School. They have a basketball team, the girls. And one of the teams they were playing has a tranny on transgender on their team. They did not want to play against him because that is a boy. He can hurt them. You know, a lot of people tell the stories of, I knew this girl who used to play with guys. I knew a girl who used to play with guys growing up. And you know what? A lot of times when she got her shot thrown, the guys will be scared to land. I was playing against her one time. And I used to do this move to where if we're shoulder to shoulder, I'll let you spin on me. But while you're running to the basket, I'm right behind you. So when you go put up your shot, I block it from the back. I'm a shot blocker. I love blocking shots. So that's what I do. I block you from the back. And I came down on her. And at the time, I was like 17, 185 pounds. She was like 24, 25 years old. She was an older woman, already graduated from high school. And so she was normally playing with the dudes. You know, everybody knew she was a lesbian, a lesbo. She used to, wear a little curly hair, sports bra. That's how she would play. And nobody tried to hit on her because we were playing ball. But I didn't take it easy on her. She could shoot. She used to play girls basketball. She wouldn't go inside to try to go inside because she recognized what had happened. Because you're playing with guys. We're bigger, we're faster, our bone structure is stronger. Well, we've seen plenty videos of girls being hurt playing with these boys. We've seen it. And I'm going to tell you this, some of you may not agree with me when I say this, but I blame a lot of this stuff on Neil Gorsuch. Yeah, I blame a lot of this on Neil Gorsuch. Neil Gorsuch, instead of shooting this crap down, when he had a chance, Neil Gorsuch actually expanded the meaning of the 1964 Civil Rights Act. That was Neil Gorsuch. When they had the cake bakery, I forget what it was, but it was Neil Gorsuch who expanded the 1964 Civil Rights Act. That weren't the liberal justices. Of course, they voted with him, but he did that. He did that. Neil Gorsuch expanded the 1964 Civil Rights Act. That's what Neil Gorsuch did. And he said it does cover LGBTQ, and it doesn't. I wonder what case was that. Let me see what case it was. Neil Gorsuch. There you go. Neil Gorsuch LGBTQ decision. Yeah, Neil Gorsuch just protected LGBTQ rights. He said that this was his decision. Neil Gorsuch surprised behind the Supreme Court surprising LGBTQ decision. That was him. That was him. That was Neil Gorsuch. That was him. He said even though it don't name the 1964 Civil Rights Act, don't name LGBTQ plus ing, but it does cover them. So that was Neil Gorsuch. This is Neil Gorsuch's fault, and he's going to have to address this. Neil Gorsuch is going to have to address this crap because stuff like this is unfair. And I'm going to show you the girls what they did, and then it's another article where they got banned from playing sports. Yeah, some principal society up there banned them from playing sports.
A run in the playoffs ended as quick as it started for the Mid-Vermont Christian School girls basketball team, pulling out of a Division IV state tournament game against the Long Trail School because they didn't want to play against a transgender athlete. MVCS head of school Vicky Fogg telling NBC5 in an email that playing against an opponent with a biological male jeopardizes the fairness of the game and safety of their players, and that allowing biological males to participate in women's sports sets a bad precedent. The Vermont Principals Association responding to the forfeit, reiterating their support for each student, referring NBC5 to their policy on gender identity, which says in part that they're committed to providing all students the opportunity to participate in activities consistent with their gender identity.
You see what happens when you grant these people acceptance? And oh yeah, you got to come over to Rumble tonight because I'm going to be showing some videos. You cannot, I repeat, you cannot. I guess we got some tranny activists in on Black Tea Patriot because I'm seeing all these thumbs up for this crap. For all you tranny activists, okay, thanks for the views. Just, you know, just don't say nothing, because if I see you, bye-bye. But they're sitting there pushing this crap. This is what happens when you give an inch. They didn't take a mile. These took a whole state. You know, people like, you give an inch, they'll take a mile. They ain't taking a mile. They done took a whole state. If you are born with a penis, you are a man. You are born with a vagina, you are a woman. There are only two, little girls and little boys. And the acceptance of this mess is not making things better. There is nothing positive about LGBTQ acceptance. Nothing. There is nothing positive about it. There is nothing positive accepting it. There is nothing positive about it. Because you know what they want? Children. And when we go over to Rumble tonight, I'm going to show you. These people want children. And they tell you all the time, they love to let you know this is what they want.
As outlined by the state.
I think that the Vermont Principals Association has been an incredible ally.
Dana Kaplan, the executive director of LGBTQ+ youth organization Outright Vermont in Burlington.
This is a real individual. This is real teammates. This is a real school. These are young people trying to be kids, play sports, be engaged in their school.
Emphasizing Outright's response to this incident, saying they've mobilized their network of resources to the southern part of the state and that they're in the process of offering support to the student, school, and others impacted by the situation.
Now, this is the punishment.
Following the end of the Vermont high school winter sports season, the Vermont Principals Association responded to the recent news a high school is opting to forfeit a basketball playoff game rather than compete against a team with a transgender opponent. ABC 22's Ken Drake joins us now to break down the announcement.
On Monday, the Vermont High School Association made the decision to deem all sports at Mid-Vermont Christian ineligible for any VPA-sanctioned activities or tournaments going forward.
And those parents ought to sue. Those parents ought to sue. I'm going to be honest with you. My child goes to a Christian academy. If they refuse to play a transgender, my daughter done made the team, and the coach say, no, we're not going to play against no boy. If Durham Athletics suspend the school from not playing, or Wake County suspend the school from not playing, oh, that parent school board meeting gonna be rocking, because I'm gonna throw a chair. It's gonna go that route that quick. How dare you take these children who are doing nothing but playing a game that they love? All they are doing is playing the game that they love, and you are taking these children and hurting their feelings because they don't want to play with a little boy. They don't want to accept the crap you're doing. Liberals don't like conservatives fighting back with all means. Liberals love to burn stuff down. George Floyd. They love to shoot at you. Man shot and assassinated the city councilman in St. Louis. Liberals love to do that, but they're terrified when we do that back. That's why Joe Biden passed that executive order today about guns. 19 states have red flag laws. 31 do not. So why are you trying to force something that clearly over 50% of the states don't want? This is why they don't want conservatives with guns. January 6th terrified them because they did not think we would do something like that. They didn't think we would get pissed off and go toward the Capitol. They didn't think we would get pissed off and show we was angry. We gonna pray about it. We don't want nobody to look down on us. Y'all Democrats are our fellow Americans. You're right, Tex Reagan. The Boy Scouts is done for. The Boy Scouts are no more good. Girl Scouts are no more good. I won't dare buy a Girl Scout cookie. And I love them lemony lemons. I won't dare buy a Girl Scout cookies. My children will not be joining Girl Scouts. Nope. Nope. Y'all allow boys who dress up as girls to be Girl Scouts. I'm not doing it. You're right, Miss Michelle. They don't care about anybody else. All they care about is themselves. That's all they care about.
Following their choice to not participate in the game. In the first round of the Vermont State Tournament, the Mid-Vermont Christian girls basketball team volunteered an automatic loss when they learned that a player on the opposing team was a transgender athlete. According to the VPA, the reason for the forfeit violates policies at the school level. And goes on to say that the VPA is committed to providing students with the opportunity to participate in activities in a manner consistent with their gender identity. The VPA policies prohibit discrimination and/or harassment of students. This decision comes just 2 days after the Mid-Vermont Christian boys team lost in the Division IV state championship game. For ABC 22, I'm Ken Drake.
So the boys team are good enough to go to the state championship. That's a good high school. Why would you punish the entire school? Because they're Christian. And I'm going to be honest with you. Where are the Christian organizations? Where is Tyler Perry? Where's Tyler Perry? Where are these so-called Christian organizations who sit here and believe in inclusion and everything? Where are you at? Well, Tyler Perry dressed like a woman anyway, so I'm pretty sure he ain't. Where are all these Christian so-called actors and singers who sing gospel music and all this, where are they at? Where are they at? I'm sorry, where are all these Christian gospel singers? Where are they at? How come Christian gospel singers are nowhere to be found when it comes defending the church? All these songs, my God is awesome, awesome. Where are all these so-called Christian gospel singers? Where are they at when it comes to standing up and protecting? Why? They don't believe in the word? I'm sorry. You can sing gospel all you want to, but if you ain't saved, you're not doing nothing but making noise. I will never buy a Snoop Dogg gospel album. Nope. Won't do it. Where's Kurt Franklin? What's Kurt Franklin? You know, Kurt Franklin, because the only thing Kurt Franklin is P-Funk. Kurt Franklin took P-Funk from the 1970s, put it in gospel music. Where's Kurt Franklin? Where are all these so-called Christian singers? Where is people like Tyler Perry taking up for this school, getting them a lawyer? Where are they at? Jeff Hayes said, where's Carrie Underwood? Where's Carrie Underwood? Where are all these Christian singers at? Where they at? Mind of Jamal Live, Mind of Jamal Live. We're about to go. Let me see which one have more. Mind of Jamal Live or yeah, okay. Mind of Jamal Live. We are about to go to, I'm about to turn you guys off and go to Mind of Jamal Black Southerner. So if you want to go to Rumble, it's in the link, it's in there. And I am paying attention in case there are super chats. I am paying attention. You know, these so-called Christians